Hey guys, welcome back to Hawk Talk. So today, Abhi and I are going to be doing a post-game analysis on the Seahawks versus Titans. This is a bit of a late video considering this happened almost a week ago, but better late than never, right? So we're going to give you guys a post-game analysis and a game preview today. So for the final score in the Seahawks versus Titans game last week, it was 33-30 with the Seahawks losing, unfortunately. Very sad, in overtime, which was really heartbreaking because, to be fair, they did have not a good chance. They were in projection to win the game, but stuff just started going downhill after halftime. So, for this Titans stats, Ryan Tannehill had 347 yards, which is really good, but no passing touchdowns. Derrick Henry had 182 yards on 35 carries and 3 touchdowns. This is absolutely insane, considering the fact that he got completely shut down in the first half against the Seahawks run defense, which I was so relieved to see. But things kind of turned around for the Titans in the second half, which is good for Titans fans, I guess you could say. But nevertheless, Derrick Henry had a great day after the second half. Talking of great days, Julio Jones had 128 receiving yards along with 21 yards for average and 6 receptions. So this shows us that he was a big deep threat for Ryan Tannehill, and he's part of the reason that Ryan Tannehill had so many passing yards. On defense, there were Denico Autry had 1.5 sack, and that was pretty much it. Other than a couple of half sacks and whatnot, the Seahawks did somewhat well against the Titans defense, and they held up pretty well, no interceptions. And Abhi, can you go over the Seahawks stats?
Yeah, right before I go over the Seahawks stats, I just wanted to point out that the majority of Julio Jones's yards in that game came from one drive, which was late in the third quarter, I believe, where he caught 2 passes back to back and almost had a touchdown, but then got taken away because he didn't get his second foot in. So yeah, it just shows how big of a threat Julio Jones is. Anyway, moving on to the Seahawks side of the ball. Russell Wilson had 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Chris Carson had a subpar day, I'd say. He had 31 yards with 13 carries, averaging 2.4 yards. And that's pretty much a subpar day for Chris Carson, as he usually gets like 50, 55 yards a game. But Tyler Lockett, on the other hand, had an amazing game with 8 receptions for 178 yards and averaging 22.2 yards per catch. And he got 1 touchdown. Freddie Swain also had a touchdown, and DK Metcalf was pretty much just disruptive on the field. Once the defense tried to guard DK, they went to Tyler Lockett, which is what happens every single time pretty much for Seahawks games. But DK Metcalf did have 53 yards with 6 receptions and averaging 8.8 yards and 0 touchdowns. One notable thing that I think DK Metcalf needs to work on is reducing his flags on play, because he is getting a lot of plays for unnecessary roughness, unsportsmanlike conduct, and taunting. The new taunting rules for the NFL are kind of weird, and not many fans are aligned with that and like that rule, because anything the defense or the offense does is that could start a fight is being called as a taunting, even though the fight never starts. This is not the best because the players are playing with a lot of emotion on the field, and a lot of these calls are happening. A lot of these taunting calls are happening when it usually happens in tricky situations when a defensive player or an offensive player makes a really good play on 3rd and long or 2nd and long, and the emotions are really high in those drives, and getting those called, I feel like, is not great because for an example in this game would be, I think DJ Reed, he had a pass breakup against AJ Brown, and then he didn't even do anything. DJ Reed just got up and flexed at AJ Brown, and the referees called that, which I don't think is fair because he just made an amazing play for the defense. If they didn't call this this penalty, who knows how the game would have ended? Because the Titans had to go from a 3rd and long at that situation. But yeah, Bobby Wagner. Moving on, Bobby Wagner had 1 sack and I believe 20 tackles, which is both a career high and a Seahawks record. Jamal Adams didn't do much. Jamal Adams just didn't do much. I feel like this season they're not blitzing him as much, but it's still the early stage of the season, so we'll have to see on that. And Al Woods had a tackle and a sack. He had 1 sack, which was a really great sack because he was pushing the offensive lineman into Ryan Tannehill, and that ended up in a sack, which was really, really amazing to see. And yeah, there was just the defense just shut down Derrick Henry, and for a majority of the game, that's where the Seahawks got the most success. And for any team, that's pretty much the case. You need to shut down or limit Derrick Henry as much as possible so that your offense can start clicking and they don't have to keep up with the high caliber of the Tennessee Titans offense. That's all I have to say.
I definitely agree with you with the penalties. I think this is debatable, but I think penalties are the reason that the Seahawks lost this game. Penalties were a lot in favor for the Titans. So obviously the Seahawks could have done better in the second half, but penalties really helped the Titans come through near the end of the game. Bobby Wagner, like you said, had 16 tackles, which is absolutely insane because 10 tackles itself is just like, oh my God, he had a really good day. But 16 tackles in the
and
NBA.
Sack.
Yeah, and a sack. In the NBA, that would be like 50 points or like 55 to 60 points. That's absolutely crazy. So I think going on to the analysis part of this video, it's really interesting to see how the Seahawks do coming up against the Vikings this week, because the Vikings, as we know, also have a very high-powered offense with a running back leading the way, which isn't new to the Seahawks considering they just faced the Titans. High-powered offense, running back leading the way. That's basically the Titans. So I think the Seahawks cornerbacks and the Seahawks defensive line will be tested a lot. The entire defense, I think, will be tested a lot, having to deal with Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and Dalvin Cook if he plays, because I know he is hurt right now. But I think it's a lot for the Seahawks to handle on offense or on defense. Sorry. So I think it'll be something to watch for that game. But I think the Seahawks definitely could have done much better in the second half, which is I feel like in the second half their offense kind of sputtered. It was either big play or punt. It was like big play or no play, if you could call it that. So it's something they need to work on. Just keeping a good consistency of picking up like 7 yards and then 10 yards or like 6 yards. Just like, keeping a good consistency on offense. Flipping to the defensive side for the Seahawks, I feel like they did everything they could, but Derrick Henry is known for doing better late in the game against defenses. And I just wish that the Seahawks could have held him in the second half like they did in the first half. Abhi, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the defense got tired towards the end of the game, because they were out on the field so much and the offense couldn't get anything rolling in the second half. And I think what you're trying to say with the offense, especially, is that they need to keep getting positive yards on plays and not stutter or lag out, because then that really chokes out the defense, and the defense gets tired because they're on the field so much, and that just is detrimental to a game and a team. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much what happened in that game. It kind of summarizes that game. It was, to be fair, the Titans did give up. I feel like they left it all on the field there in Lumen Field. It's disappointing because it's the first time fans are back in a regular season game since 2019, I believe. So it was disappointing to see them lose, but hats off to the Titans for leaving it all on the field. And they're just like, we're going home with a win today. So, I mean, I think the Seahawks lost. It's better than getting blown out. I mean, in like the Dolphins against the Bills. I mean, it's definitely, I feel like losing in a close game is much better than getting blown out, or even worse, a tie, which is a different conversation. But I personally think a loss is better than a tie, because no one wants to see a tie on a record. Like, oh yeah, my team is 4-6-1. Like, that one is just so unsatisfying.
That's gonna haunt them for the rest of the season.
Exactly. It's like that could basically change, the division standing. It's just a pain to deal with all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to our next portions of the video, we are going to be doing our Hawk Talk Fantasy League update. So I think Nikhil usually does this, but he's not here today, so I will be taking his place. So, in week 2, it was an interesting week, to say that. Interesting in a bad way for Abhi, because he was the number 1 seed, but with the loss in week 2, he fell down to number 2, and guess who's number 1? None other than me. Let's go. So yeah,
and this is all because I put Tyler Lockett on the bench, because I was thinking, oh, they went after Tyler Lockett that game. They're going to go after DK Metcalf this game. So I put DK Metcalf out on the field, and that didn't work,
Yeah.
You win some, you lose some.
Some in the sense that you lose a lot.
Yeah, lose by almost 100 points.
Yeah. Okay, so our league, we kind of padded the stats to say, like, we kind of like upped the points for big plays and stuff. So like, I think Russell Wilson for me had like 90 something points, or it was crazy. But anyways, in position 1 is me, Saaketh. The second spot in the division goes to Abhi. Third goes to Nikhil. And fourth, unfortunately, is Santosh, which is honestly really surprising for me, because like, he's the guy who knows everything about fantasy. He's like the fantasy god, but not in this league, I guess.
He's playing a little too safe.
I think so, yeah. I think he's not taking enough risks, Okay, so week 2 was a really good week for me. I did end up winning my game, like I said previously, and guess who I won against? Santosh. So I beat him by, I think I beat him by like 95 points or something. So for the stats, it was Russell Wilson had 142 points, which pretty much carried me to a victory against Tom Brady, 66. CMC had 48 points for me. DeAndre Swift has been doing really well for me. Actually, I picked him up during the offseason of our league, so he's been getting a good amount of points. Okay, so the thing is, Terry McLaurin wasn't projected to do well, and so I kept him on the bench, and he got 31 points for me.
And he was also trying to trade him.
Yeah, I was trying to trade him.
He wanted DK Metcalf for Terry McLaurin.
No, it was DK Metcalf, TJ Hawkinson, and another player who I forgot. But let us know what you guys think of that trade in the comments. But I also benched Deontay Johnson, who got 24 points. I subbed in Marvin Jones this week to see how he would do, but unfortunately Deontay Johnson is injured. So that's it. That's our game in week 2. Abhi, do you know a little bit of what happened in your game in week 2?
Okay, so in week 2, we start off the week on Thursday night. It's I didn't have any players on Thursday night, unfortunately. So Nikhil had already had like, I think it was like a 30-point lead by the end of Thursday. And then once Sunday came around, the Seahawks defense carried me with 50 points. And Patrick Mahomes had, I think, 120 or 110 or something like that for me. And it's always those two that pretty much carry my team. And this game, Tyler Lockett had 44 freaking points. And I put him out on the bench for DK Metcalf. And DK Metcalf had like 7. So it didn't really work out for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it for our fantasy this week. We will update you guys next week once the week is over on who won and whatnot. I think that's it for Hawk Talk this week. It's somewhat of a short video, but it is late, so we'll definitely upload our video next week a bit earlier, so you guys can look forward to that. You guys can also look forward to a preview that I think should be uploaded right now. If it's not uploaded right now, it should be uploaded in a little bit. So yeah, that's it for this video. We'll see you guys next time. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. See you guys. Have a great night.